Hello, and this is a reminder video about the service changes starting November 13th. That's coming up soon. And we all know there are new timetables that are going to be taking effect on Monday, November 13th. However, they made some changes. Like I said, there are a number of changes they made on the main line that aren't even being mentioned here. All right, so we go over this. 5:24 a.m. train being extended to Babylon and will run to Atlantic instead of Grand Central. A new weekday train departs, so they're getting extra service. 7:24 train from Atlantic Terminal to Freeport will terminate at Jamaica now, and the 7:40 train from Grand Central to Babylon will no longer run. Port Washington branch is having changes, and like I said, they're routing trains to Penn Station instead of Grand Central, and there's some gaps in service there. And of course, the Ronkonkoma line, the 701 and 749 trains from Grand Central to Ronkonkoma will no longer run. So you're going to have two trains, actually three trains being eliminated on the Ronkonkoma line. But that's not all the issues. They're not mentioning all the trains that are going to skip Mineola, as well as something new I found in the schedules that's going to really leave some people mad. They're actually cutting more rush hour service on the main line. They're not even mentioning this, and I want to actually bring this up right now. So we're going to look at the current Port Jefferson branch timetable here. They're cutting a train that originates out of Westbury in the morning that goes to Penn Station, which is absolutely obscene. So it's just more proof of the contempt they have for us. So this is the train they're cutting. Let's see, I got to find it first. So here it is, 6:34 train out of Westbury. This train is being eliminated. It stops. It makes all stops from Westbury to Penn Station. They're eliminating it. So if we look at the latest one here, you'll see that it's gone. And now there's a big gap in service. And even at Mineola, if you miss the 6:23 westbound train, the next train going west isn't until 6:49, and that is going to go to Hunters Point, I believe, right? Yeah, Hunters Point. So you'll have to change at Jamaica to. Is that going to go to Hunters Point? Yeah, Hunters Point. It's going to go to Hunters Point. So, yeah, they and you're going to have an even bigger gap if you're at Westbury or New Hyde Park or any of those stations like Carr Place. You're going to have to wait 40 minutes. I mean, we're getting less service now than when we got before Grand Central opened. This is absolutely crazy. They keep cutting service on the main line, and I noticed this when I was looking at the schedule this morning. I'm like, wait a minute, that train is gone. So they've eliminated it, and now if you want to go to Penn Station and you're at Westbury, let's see, you're at Westbury and you want to go to Penn Station, you have to get on the 6:05 train. And then after that, the next train that's going to take you to Penn Station isn't going to be until, oh my gosh, 7:34. So an hour and a half gap. I mean, they've really decimated service on the main line, folks. They have cut a lot of service on the main line. It seems like Rob Free is actually really even worse than Rinaldi at this point. At this point, he's looking out for the South Shore, and it's so obvious. I mean, I could put together. I mean, look at this big gap in service here, and they have the 6:15 from Huntington. This should not be running express after Hicksville. It should be making all local stops. There's no reason for this. This train actually used to be a local train. I remember we used to have more service. They actually have cut service. It's unbelievable. They've cut service between 6 and 7 a.m. And that's a busy time. At least I think it is. It's unbelievable. So they managed to cut service. I just noticed this. So this is very important for people commuting on the main line. You now have a big gap in service now between the six. This train's going to be jammed up now, and this one goes to Grand Central, and then you want to go to Penn. I mean, it's ridiculous. This train here, the 6:15 out of Huntington, should be stopping at Westbury, Carr Place, and Mineola. At least Mineola. But it doesn't even stop at Mineola. I mean, this is idiotic. Really, so they really love screwing this central Nassau area, like I said before. And this is just more proof of it. I don't even know what train this is here. But you see that's what they did. So now, if you miss the 6:23, you're going to be waiting until 6:49, and then you're going to have to change at Jamaica or get on the 7:02. This train's going to be packed, and you're going to have a lot of people transferring now at Jamaica for Penn Station trains. I mean, they just took a whole bunch of service away. You know, there also used to be a 718 out of Westbury, and that's gone. I think let's see what else. They might have cut some more trains too. Let's see what else they've got cut here as well. I think that's the only one they cut in the morning. But yeah, they actually cut that. I don't know why they did that. All right, there's a 729 out of Hicksville. Is that still there? Let's see. That's still there. So there are some cuts, and some of my other viewers can definitely let me know if there are any other cuts that we need to look at here. But I mean, that's an unexcusable gap in service, 40-plus minute gap in service in the middle of the rush hour at key stations along the main line. And guess who doesn't have any 40-minute gaps? Yeah, the Babylon branch. I mean, they are spoiled. Look at all the service they get. I mean, if you're at Rockville Center, I mean, you're not going to have to wait more than, let's see, you've got 611, 629. They're getting better service than we are in Mineola. 642, 65, 709. There aren't any crazy gaps at all in their rush hour service. Isn't that interesting? Very, very interesting. So it's just more proof. Even at Lynbrook, this isn't the full schedule for Lynbrook, but even Lynbrook gets better service than we do in the AM peak. It's absolutely ridiculous. Really, really ridiculous BS going on at this railroad. And they got to get called out for it. So if we look at the Long Beach schedule, you'll see even Lynbrook has better service than Mineola at this point. So if you're in Lynbrook, you're going to have trains at, all right, so you have 633, the 651, 659, 721. But there aren't any crazy gaps. It's like evenly spread. But on the main line, they have this crazy gap. And there's no reason for it. Why did they get rid of that 659 train? There was no reason to get rid of that train. Or 639, or whatever it was. I mean, that train that train has existed for a long, long time. But no, they, meanwhile, Babylon gets everything. It's unbelievable. It's just so obvious that this railroad is looking out for the South Shore. It really is so obvious. They're playing favorites in certain areas. And of course, Syosset actually will wind up getting better service than we are because, well, people with money live in Syosset, so therefore they're going to get more. Even they're going to get more service than we are. Looking at the PM here, let's see if there are any crazy gaps in the PM that we're going to look at here in a moment. 546, 612, 625. PM is a little better organized here, but the AM is a disaster. The AM is a huge mess. The AM service is horrible at the mainline stations. Absolutely horrible, especially in that 6 to 7 a.m. Time frame that they have listed. So, yeah, this is not a good situation at all whatsoever. For people. Not a good situation at all. So, yeah, I saw that cut. I was like, what? I mean, what are they doing? I mean, really? Let's... And, of course, we have the cutbacks in service on the main line, of course, with all these Ronkonkoma trains skipping Mineola, of course. 37 of them each weekend day. So this weekend will be the last weekend they're going to run. And I'm kind of curious to see how many people get off at Mineola on those trains, because I bet it's a decent amount, and now they're going to crowd onto the Huntington train. But they just love screwing us. Like I said, this railroad has contempt for us here, particularly if you live in Westbury, Carr Place, Mineola, Maryland Avenue, and New Hyde Park. They have pure contempt for us because this is a diverse part of Long Island, and you just want to screw us, They don't care about ridership. They care about, look at all the service the Babylon branch gets on the weekends too. I mean, 3 trains an hour. They get more service than everybody. Somebody commented, "Oh well, they have more ridership." The ridership here is increasing, but this is all by design. Yeah, you can say that's the excuse they're going to use when they cut service because everybody wants to be on the South Shore now, and the middle of the island is becoming a wasteland because of it. All right. I mean, look at all the service they get. I mean, it's ridiculous. You don't see any crazy gaps in service on the Babylon branch. Look at all the service they get. I mean, you see it right here. I mean, this is unbelievable. I could make a chart, but I'm not going to. It's not, I can't anymore. Here's one gap between 61 and 719 at some of the stations on the Babylon branch, like Belmore American, Wandsworth. But other than that, it's not as bad as the gap that you're getting on the other lines. Okay, so let's talk about the Port Washington branch briefly, though. I know they have more of a voice than we do, but you'll see what's happening here on the Port Washington branch because they're kind of getting screwed too a little bit by this. Let's see. So they're sending a train that would normally run to Grand Central, and they changed it over to Penn. All right, so this is the old schedule I think we're looking at here. And so you could see there's a 714 and the 719, which made all stops to Bayside and then made Grand Central. It stopped at Woodside and then Grand Central, and then there was a 714 that made all stops to Great Neck and then ran express to Penn. That makes sense. Well, they changed the schedule around in the morning and they screwed it up because now what they did is, now the 714 and 719 are both expresses, and they both, and this is an express to Penn now. And then they have a 735 that will start at Great Neck. So let's see what they have right now. So 738. Yeah, so they also took service away from Little Neck, Douglaston, and Bayside. They cut service there too by having they say they're playing favorites with people. They're playing favorites. They want to have an express train because, well, there are a lot more rich people live in Port Washington than Douglaston and Bayside. So let's give them more service and take away service from the other areas. This is what they do. This is a railroad that is run for the rich. I mean, it's unbelievable what they get away with. And Rob Free, I'm disappointed in you that you're not speaking up. But, honestly, I think he's just going to be down with a certain demographic, even though he might have started. They all want to look out for. They know the deal already. They know the deal. In fact, I think I might have met him once a long time ago. And I don't know if it was him that said it, but this was back when they were doing the construction around for the Grand Central, the switch work around Harold, and they had cut mainline service back, and I told him, why aren't you cutting Babylon branch service back? And I don't know if it was him, but he said, we can't touch the Babylon branch. So it's obvious. They're looking out for those people on the South Shore, and the rest of us, we can just pound dirt. This railroad, it's not about ridership. It's about how much money you make and where you work. If you're white and you work on Wall Street and you live in a town that's full of your own kind, you're going to get taken care of a lot better than people who aren't. And it's illegal, it's wrong, but they keep doing it. They keep getting away with it time and time again. And I'm irate over these schedule changes, but by far we get screwed the most here on the main line because we are the diverse parts of Long Island. So therefore we get screwed. I mean, and yes, this weekend we've got this work going on the Babylon branch, but yet, it's very interesting that they still maintain those semi-expresses. Yeah, they still maintain them. So yeah, I know that a lot of stations will have hourly service, but if you're in a lot of other stations, you're not going to be stuck with the hourly service. All right, they're somehow they can find the time to run these extra semi-express trains. For the important people that are connecting off the Montauk trains. And some of these don't even have Montauk connections, by the way. Some of them don't. Some of them, like this one here, this one in the morning they run, there's an 838. That's a Montauk train right there, right? And then the 843. So they're still running that just because. It's obvious what's going on at this railroad, how they get away with it, time and time again. But it's all part of the bigger plan of ruining the middle of the island. And the South Shore, well, that's the only desirable place. That's the only safe place. That's the only clean and happy place. And the rest of us, well, we're going to just deal with more of our train service cut, more homeless, more illegals, more neglect, more businesses closing, more crime. It's all part of the big plan. But, the only good parts of Long Island to live in are places that people like us aren't allowed to live in. And that's how the plan works. And this is all part of it, again. So I'm irate, and I might be at the next committee meeting because this is, they need to be told off in person. I really wish I did it. I really wish it was done. I did it, and I should have done it, and it needs to be done. And I got to make sure that it's done by the time this year's over. I got to go in there and tell them off because they really are a bunch of snobs. It's so obvious who they support, and they keep getting away with it time and time again. And I'm just not going to have it. I'm not going to be silent.